sultry November day in South Florida. We're at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami as the visiting Indianapolis Colts take on the AFC East leading Miami Dolphins. And a check of the latest AFC East standing shows the Dolphins trying to keep their one-game lead over the Buffalo Bills. The Indianapolis Colts a chance with a win today to pull at the 500 level. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Hicks along with Bob Golick. And Bob, you talk about milestones, you talk about Dan Marino, but in order to keep track of them, you have to have a full-time mathematician plus an historian as well. The numbers tell us he's on the verge of another one today.
Right, there's a lot of big numbers, but the one number that we're concerned about today, Dan Marino needs 151 yards to move past Dan Fouts for the second place in the all-time passing yardage list. And you know, Dan really hasn't been burning up the field, but I think Dan Marino can get 151 yards, no problem.
Well, with that quick trigger of Marino, everybody wants to be a target, but the wide receivers haven't exactly been his favorite target, and there have been some grumbling lately about that. Irving Fryer and Mark Ingram, to name a couple.
Right, and Don Shula doesn't like to see things like this happen, but obviously they were a little upset that they haven't been getting any receptions. Mark Ingram actually missed practice on Monday, showed up on Wednesday. They said, hey, no big deal, you're fine. They got him for about $2 grand, and you know, they just felt like it's something that happened. They dealt with it. It's over. Don Shula's ready to move on.
As for the Colts, they wanted to instill a little bit of magic in their offense a couple of weeks ago, so Don Majkowski gets his second straight start over Jim Harbaugh.
Right, and talking to the coaches for the Colts, it wasn't so much what Jim Harbaugh did wrong. It's just that there was some sort of a spark lacking. They felt that they have an advantage in having two talented quarterbacks like Majkowski and Harbaugh. They're hoping that the Magic Man can bring a spark that Harbaugh just couldn't bring to him.
Well, Magic may offer a little sleight of hand, but everybody knows that the real deal on the Colts offense is Marshall Faulk, a phenomenal rookie year so far.
This guy has been incredible, not just for a rookie, but for any running back. Tom Olivadotti said he's probably the best running back he's seen in a long, long time. Now Marshall Faulk told us that, you know, when he came in, he didn't think people would be paying much attention to him, and that's why he felt that he was able to get a lot of the yardage. But he also knows that people are now paying attention to him, and the running is getting much and much more difficult.
There is Don Majkowski. As mentioned, it really was not that Jim Harbaugh was not doing the job. In fact, Jim Harbaugh, with sitting out last week, became the top-rated quarterback in the AFC, but Don Majkowski will be the quarterback, and they'll ride him as long as he keeps winning.
Right, I mean, that's just an amazing number to think that Harbaugh didn't play, and in not playing becomes the top-rating quarterback. But you know, like I said before, it's not so much what he did wrong. They really felt that the guy was doing a good job. They just needed a spark.
Ted Marchibroda, the head coach, third year of his second stint. He, of course, authored a couple of big turnarounds, two of the biggest in NFL history in his first stint. Don Shula, the all-time winningest coach in the NFL. And the Colts will receive. And kicking off for the Miami Dolphins will be Pete Stoyanovich. There are the deep men for Indianapolis. Ronald Humphrey, number 25, and Dewell Brewer, number 26. Stoyanovich enjoying a career game last week in the Miami win. 3 field goals, all 40 or longer for the first time in his career.
Right, and he was actually voted the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, which I believe is the only the second Dolphin to ever be voted that. And you know, obviously these kickers are much maligned sometimes because it all comes down to them, and we usually remember them when they miss the kick.
Underway in Miami. And this is Ronald Humphrey, who comes up to return for Indianapolis, and brought down by the Dolphins' Tyrone Braxton, number 34. Here comes Don Majkowski. Ran for a touchdown, passed for another one last week, but also had a couple of interceptions. Up front, protecting Majkowski will be an improving offensive line, which is anchored by Will Wolford, who signed as an unrestricted free agent a year ago, the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL. Of course, the rookie phenom Marshall Faulk leads the AFC in rushing. Sean Dawkins and Floyd Turner, the wideouts. Turner, season-high 7 catches last week. Mark Jackson comes in as the third wideout in the Colt offensive set. First play from scrimmage, Marshall Faulk. Gain of 4 up to the 34. Stopped by Tim Bowens, the rookie defensive tackle for Miami. Up front, Jeff Cross is inactive. He's missing his first game in his entire career. That's a streak of 104 straight. Sprained an ankle in practice on Wednesday. Larry Webster gets the start for him. Brian Cox is the leading tackler For Miami, Troy Vincent anchors the defensive secondary, says he's still 80 to 85% recovering from a knee injury sustained last December. Frankie Smith comes in as the 5th defensive back. 2nd down and 6 for Mikowski and the Colts. And this is Roosevelt Potts, and the big fullback is stopped at the line of scrimmage by the surging Miami defense, led by number 99, Chuck Klingbeil.
And Chuck Klingbeil, one of the last remaining nose tackles, designated nose tackles in the league. You see so many of these teams going to a straight four-man. The Dolphins basically using a four-man, but Chuck is still keeping that moniker, and I have that soft spot in my heart for anybody who calls himself a nose tackle.
3rd down and 4. Mikowski will work out of the shotgun, flanked by Falk. Time, and his first pass is complete, and it's to Marshall Faulk out of the backfield. Faulk not only is the AFC's leading rusher, he's also the leading receiver on this team and the only player in the entire NFL to lead his team in both of those categories.
And the reason you don't see Marshall Faulk here is because as a receiver, he also works from a receiver position, lined up as a wide receiver, crossed in the middle, finding the open spot and catching the ball. That is the versatility of Marshall Faulk. As I said before, not just catching a little dump pass out of the backfield, but actually going out and being a wide receiver.
Except the first down, and the Colts at their own 43, and this is Faulk. Faulk pushing up just across the 45 for maybe a gain of 2. Marshall Faulk last week 110 rushing yards. 77 of those came in the 4th quarter, and that really proved to be significant as the Colts were able to hang on to that 28-25 win over the Jets.
Well, like you said before, this guy, they've started to focus on him, obviously, because he's had the success. And early, the first 3 quarters of that game, they pretty much beat on him, but they feel that he's the kind of guy that can keep hammering away, and his numbers in the 4th quarter, 77 yards, really proves his ability.
And the pitch to Faulk left side, cross midfield into Miami territory, and the Colts have another first down. They're going to mark Faulk out of bounds at the Miami 43, brought down by Gene Atkins, the free safety.
Now, what you saw on this play, they finally go into the perimeter. He has the speed to get outside. Now watch to the right of your screen, fullback Roosevelt Potts coming up and making a block, taking out basically 2 men leading the way. Talking to Ted Marchibroda and listing the things that have made this team better. He listed even before Marshall Faulk the play of Roosevelt Potts.
Faulk out of the ball game. Humphrey is in. Ronald Humphrey is in as Mikowski is on the mark to Sean Dawkins. Dawkins with his first reception of the game.
Now Mikowski took a shot there at the end. He's a little slow getting up. Looks like he may have took a shot on the wrist, or his hand may have. What happens a lot of times, the quarterback's hand will hit a helmet on the follow-through, and I think that's what happened there. Marco Coleman coming in and making the late hit. Let's see if we can see it here again. Coleman coming in, yeah. Mikowski's hand making contact with Coleman, and there's so much force in that hand coming forward. He made contact with something as hard as the guy's head. It's going to hurt, especially for these specialists.
Impressive first series here for the Colts at the Miami 33, another 1st and 10. This is Ronald Humphrey, and Humphrey will lose 5 or 6 as a flag comes down. Larry Webster, filling in for Jeff Cross, was able to wrestle Humphrey down in the Colt backfield, and we'll check in with the referee today, Red Cashin, to see what the flag indicates.
Well, the play here was made by Brian Cox, coming up the block by Stasiak, but Cox penetrating so much took away any possibility of a cutback lane for Marshall Faulk, and that is what Marshall Faulk thrives on. He loves it. He knows where the ball is supposed to go. He starts there, what they call the pressure point, but he can break it any way.
There's no infraction on the play. It's 2nd down. 2nd down.
We may be having some communication problems with Cashin. I'm not aware if he's actually turned the microphone on or not. We'll check it out as Kirk Loudermilk comes up to discuss it.
I guess they're not going to let us be privy to the information today.
Well, it's 2nd down and 16. We do know that. The ball moved back to the Miami 40. And Mikowski to the air, and he's got Floyd Turner, and Turner is up to the 35. It'll bring up 3rd down and long. Brian Cox making the stop. Season high 7 catches for 72 yards for Turner last week. The former Saint. He played in New Orleans for 5 years.
Now you'll see Floyd Turner coming in from the right side of your screen on the short route, right over the middle. Mikowski just dropping the ball off. The one thing, talking to Floyd Turner yesterday, the thing, you know, he's catching some balls, but you're seeing he's catching these short ones. He's a little disappointed he hasn't even gone over 100 yards in the game yet.
3rd down and 11. They have Falk split to the left. Mikowski from the shotgun. And they have Falk, and Falk fighting his way for 1st down yardage. It'll be close depending on the spot. J.B. Brown making the stop on Falk, who becomes that much more dangerous when they split him out, and you have to have a great coverage of him, or if he gets in the open field, he'll be gone.
Well, again, coming from the right side of your screen, it's just a quick slant by Marshall Falk, just coming across. They get a man-to-man coverage on him. Now, the thing that in talking to some of the players, Tom Olivadotti talked about him saying he is probably the fastest running back that he has seen in a long, long time. And he's talking about all the big-name guys that are out now with the Smiths and the Sanders and all these guys. But also, he said he is competitive speed-wise with the wide receiver. So you lose, the Colts lose absolutely nothing by putting him out as a wide receiver.
So that close, short of the 1st down. So Marcher Broda faced with an early decision. I would assume he would go for it with that short of a yardage.
And at this point, the one thing they need to do is establish momentum. They've had a great drive going so far. To stop it now would be to concede, and I don't think Ted Marcher-Broda feels that he can have that mindset today.
Well, they'll go with Roosevelt Potts and Marshall Falk in the backfield. And Mikowski will sneak it, and it appears he did get the 1st down. So the Colt drive, impressive to start off this game with 9:40 in the 1st quarter, continues.
You got a power back like Roosevelt Potts. You got one of the most dangerous running backs in the league, and Don Mikowski takes it himself. You know, and it's fairly, I don't want to say it's easy for a quarterback, but if you got that much yardage, you put a center and 2 guards all close to 300 pounds shoulder to shoulder, you're going to get a couple of inches of push. If you don't, then you're going to have to do a little roster realignment.
Well, Indianapolis very fortunate to win last week with 5 turnovers. They had 3 fumbles, a couple of interceptions, still able to hold off the Jets by 3. They got out ahead 14-0, and then it turned into a fumble fest, and now a flag has been dropped.
Encroachment by the nose guard before the ball was snapped. 5 yards, 1st down.
Well, Chuck Klingbeil flagged for that penalty, and that will leave no doubt as to the Colt 1st down, and they'll get an extra 5.
Well, he jumped a little bit early, and I don't think he got back far enough. You know, with the new rule, staying out of the neutral zone there around the ball, just prior to the snap, he jumped, and I don't think he was able to align himself back far enough. So, but you know, it's hard. You know, when you know the ball is going to be snapped quick, you know it's going to be a quick hitting play. As a defensive lineman, you want to get up in there tight, and you've got to be on a hair trigger. You've got to be able to react as soon as that ball goes. And sometimes the cadence of the quarterback can throw you off. You know, and that's the excuse I always use. But my dad used to go, Bobby, the ball's right in front of you. If you can't see it, move. What's wrong with you? So I never had any support from my father on that when I jumped offside. But I can certainly understand.
You poor guy. The Dolphins trying to get their 3rd straight win. Impressive 23-3 win at New England, and it was the defense that really stole the thunder in that win. They gave up only 3 points to the high-scoring passing attack of Drew Bledsoe and the Patriots. Now trying to stop the Colts, who have a 1st and 10 from the Dolphin 18. Marshall Falk. Falk maybe 1 or 2, and that is all.
Well, you see here, tackle made by Larry Webster, who's in for Cross. You see here basically the way that Marshall Falk runs. He's handed the ball deep in the backfield as he starts here to the left of the screen. And, well, you know, us lay people saw a hole there that maybe he should have run through. Perhaps he saw something that we didn't. But that's the way he goes. He usually gets the ball deep, and then he makes his move.
Mikowski flushed out of the pocket, throwing to the back of the end zone and simply throwing it away. Roosevelt Potts was in the back of the end zone, but so were a host of Dolphins, including Troy Vincent. So good coverage by Miami.
You're going to see the good pressure up front. Just rushing, basically rushing 4 guys, but it was more of a coverage pressure than anything else. Initially, Don Mikowski was looking at Sean Dawkins, number 87, crossing from his right side, covered very, very well, had to pull up and smartly threw the ball away.
Big play in this drive, 3rd down and 8. Falk slotted it to right, and the give to Potts. Potts stopped for about a gain of 2. Chuck Klingbeil met him, and we will see Dean Biasucci for a field goal attempt for Indianapolis.
Well, kind of a slow hitting play. You're going to see Klingbeil right there in the center, playing off the block of number 63, Kirk Loudermilk. Slow hitting play for a guy like Roosevelt Potts, and Klingbeil able to get the separation and make the hit.
Dean Biasucci has made his last 7 of 8 field goal attempts, 9 of 11 on the year, and this will be a 32-yard attempt. Blocked. The Miami defense comes up big and blocks the field goal attempt of Biasucci. It was only from 32 yards out, but the impressive Colts drive comes to an end. 7:56 left in the first, still scoreless.
Backer Chris Singleton right off the left edge of your screen. You're going to see him here make an arm over move, coming through the gap, just comes clean, was able to get up, found the trajectory of the ball, slap it away. Good, clean block.
Big play by Singleton enables the Dolphins to set up at their own 36. Marino firing long and deep on the first play from scrimmage for Fryer, and it's incomplete. A flag is thrown. Damon Watts, the rookie out of Indiana, on the coverage. So it didn't take long for perhaps the grumbling of the Miami wideouts to take effect. And what did Irving Fryer tell us yesterday? Maybe the squeaky wheels get the grease.
There you go. And I see Irving Fryer, Damon Watts going up. Now, it's not even so much the contact here. As Damon Watts, you see, with the arm up, he's just face guarding Irving Fryer. As a coverage guy, you have to make a play for the ball.
By the defense, number 34, first down.
Well, we mentioned at the top of the telecast in protest, Mark Ingram was a no-show at Monday's practice. Apologized to Don Shula on Wednesday. He was protesting his lack of catches in last week's game, 0. Irving Fryer also doing some grumbling. He only caught 2 last week, but right off the bat, Marino looks for Fryer, and he comes up with a pass interference call, and it's Miami 1st and 10 from the 19. Bernie Parmalee, the first carry of the game. As we set the offense for Miami, Dan Marino was mentioned. 151 passing yards headed into this game from taking over the number 2 slot in passing yards all time and trying to pass Dan Fouts. Up front, an excellent offensive line that's protected him well. Only 7 sacks all season for Webb Sims, Dellenbach, Widener, and Heller. There's Parmalee, one of the great stories in the NFL in many, many years. O.J. McDuffie comes in, is the 3rd wideout. Parmalee gained 4 on his first carry, and here he is again, getting up to maybe the 19 as we set the Colts defensively for you. Bernard Whittington did get the start for Tony Bennett. It was a late change. Bennett has missed the last 2 second halves of the last 2 games out with a pinched nerve. Jeff Herrod is the leading tackler. Quentin Coriat has also had injury problems with a pinched nerve, but he gets the start today. And David Tate gets his 2nd start for Jason Belzer at the strong safety position. Belzer still injured by a knee, and it's now 3rd down and 6. Ball at the 19. Marino to work out of the shotgun. Movement up front.
Well, you talk about the experience and the talent of Dan Marino. The one thing that you got to point at, the guy knows how to work an offense.
And the call against the Colts.
As I said before, you know, as a defense, you're keyed up and you want to go, but sometimes it's the inflection, the sound, the intensity of the voice can draw you off, and here you see it, Dan Marino's inflection being very effective at bringing the Colts defense off sides. And perfectly honest, I mean, that's what the Dolphins needed right now, because other than the penalty and on the long pass, the Colts defense has been playing very well up front.
That was Bernard Whittington, 95. Ray Buchanan was set for the safety blitz. And we might look for the Colts to throw a few blitzes Dan Marino's way with a penalty, 3rd down and 1. Marino fumbles the exchange. He's able to recover it at the 16, but he'll lose a yard or two. Jeff Harrod was in Marino's face.
Well, this is one of the things that happens. You don't expect it between a couple of guys that have worked together so much. Dellenbach and Marino having worked together quite a bit. Just a bad exchange.
So Pete Stoyanovich with a chance to keep his streak going. 44, 50, and 48 yards out last week. Perfect 3 for 3. And this will be what we would assume to be a chip shot for Pete, just a 33-yard attempt.
Oh, the 24.
Down the middle for Stoyanovich. 5:43 left in the first. Miami strikes first. They lead it 3-0.
Easier and faster way to find long-distance phone numbers. By Braun Electric Shavers, for the world's most recognized shave. And by Starter, leading apparel and headwear of the NFL.
And we welcome you back to Joe Robbie Stadium. Dan Hicks and Bob Golick. And to further illustrate Miami's slow starts, in fact, Stojanovich's 33-yard field goal, just the 9th point in the first quarter this season for Miami. They have been outscored 41-9 in the first stanza. Stoyanovich should just kick the field goal through, kicks it out of bounds. The penalty flag comes out, and the Colts will begin their second series at the 40. So Stoyanovich puts up 3 for Miami, but puts the Colts in excellent field position to begin their second series.
And their first series really a nice generated a lot of yardage and mixed things up very, very well. And you know, they're a team that has that needs to get that kind of going for them right now.
Jim Harbaugh's been watching on the sidelines for the last 2 weeks. We'll be right back. Back in Miami, the Dolphins with an early 3-0 lead over the Indianapolis Colts. Don Majkowski in his second start for the Indianapolis Colts. His start last week, his first in more than 2 years. They decided to go against Jim Harbaugh, who says the last 8 quarters of his play before getting yanked were 6 of those quarters were the best he's ever had in his career, as Marshall Faulk gets the carry.
Well, Marshall Faulk trying to run the middle. And he's very good as a slasher. Here we see Don Majkowski back in the old days as a Green Bay Packer.
He says he's not the same player as that 1989 Pro Bowl season when he led the NFL in passing. He's since suffered a torn rotator cuff in 1990, but he says, I have the goods to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I still feel, or at least felt that way when he was backing up Jeff George, that he would be back in the lineup. Complete to Floyd Turner, and Turner has his second reception of the game. On 2nd down and 9, he'll be short. That'll bring him 3rd down. Chris Singleton and J.B. Brown combining on the stop of Turner.
And we see Floyd Turner here at the top of your screen, just stopping it, making a quick just a quick turn and come back. Good timing on Majkowski's part, just getting the ball into him as he made the turn before the coverage could attack back. Now, he was a guy that we asked him about the Ingram incident, and he said, well, you know what, anytime you don't make the catches, you're going to blame somebody, whether it be the coach or the quarterback. So he didn't really blame Mark.
3rd and 1, they go to Turner. 1st down, Turner gets loose at the 40, cuts back to the left, breaks another tackle, and is all the way down to the Miami 25. J.B. Brown finally stopped Floyd Turner, but not before a gain of 26.
Now, what a great catch in the run. Majkowski just dropping the ball. Just again, the short crossing around in the middle. Floyd Turner does it all by himself, making the breaks back and forth, breaking the tackles. Finally, he surrounded and said, I give up.
And the best career season in Floyd Turner's career, coming in 1991 with the Saints when he nearly had 1,000 yards receiving. Colts have first down and 10, and the give is to Roosevelt Potts. Potts battling for extra yardage. Potts, of course, the leading rusher for Indianapolis last year, had over 700 yards, the former number 2 pick in '93 out of Northeast Louisiana. And probably you ask anybody about the most unselfish player on the team, and they mentioned Roosevelt Potts.
That's exactly it. Here's a guy who went from being the man to being basically a blocker for Marshall Faulk. He gets the ball once in a while to change things up in the running game, but in essence, he's the guy that leads the way and has been giving Marshall the big plays.
Well, Faulk is not in the game. Ronald Humphrey is in the game on 2nd down and 7. Quick drop by Mikowski, and once again he's got Turner trying to shake loose. He's got another first down as a late flag comes in.
We're going to have a face mask called on Michael Stewart, who's making the tackle on Turner.
Floyd Turner, we mentioned the season-high 7 catches last week. Already racking up the catches today. He's got 4 for 50 yards.
Again, we see him here at the top of your screen. Just a quick
face
slam.
mask, number 35 on the defense. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
And there you see the face mask at the end of the tackle there. Just reach out. Basically, you would call it inadvertent, but if you feel that mask and you don't let it go right away, the refs frown on that. If you touch it, they're going to penalize you. But if you grab it and hold on, they're going to penalize you more.
Colts first and goal from the 6. Their first series ended with a blocked field goal. They trail it 3-0. 2:31 left in the first quarter. Faulk, left side. Marshall Faulk trying to get into the end zone. He'll be short. Marshall Faulk, out of all the touchdowns he has this year, which total 9, all of them have come at home. He's trying to score his first touchdown on the road.
Well, watch here. Coming from the right side of your screen, you're going to see Roosevelt Potts leading the way. What a block on number 57, Deion Fox, leading the way, driving Deion Fox back to the goal line, just clearing the way for Marshall Faulk. What a great block.
Well, we see his first touchdown on the road. 2nd and goal from the 1. And Mikowski trying to sneak it in. No indication yet. And if it's been this long, up. There's the indication from the line judge. Now a touchdown for Don Mikowski. 1-yard plunge. His 2nd rushing touchdown in as many weeks. He had a 3-yard touchdown last week.
Well, again, not a bad call at all by Don Mikowski, as we see Ted Marchibroda on the sidelines. With the talent of the Roosevelt Potts and the Marshall Faulk with the running game of what they've done, they've really opened it up where people have to be aware of a lot of things. They take the focus off of the quarterback. Here you see Mikowski just forcing his way, getting that little bit of yardage he needs to get over the goal line.
So Marshall Faulk still touchdownless on the road. Biasucci to add the extra point. And Biasucci has the PAT, and Indianapolis has the lead. 1:33 to go in the first quarter. Colts lead it 7-3. Miami, the Colts, impressive on 2 drives. They score a touchdown on their second one. They lead at 7-3. Dan Hicks with Bob Golick. Miami has really dominated this series. They've won 7 of the last 8 games. Jeff Harrod, the linebacker for Indianapolis, told us yesterday that if they could win this game, it would be probably the biggest win since the Colts moved to Indianapolis.
Right, but you know, they have some divisional games going up, so they're going to have a chance still to move up in the division. But right now, to go away from home and to come down to Miami and to play these guys, to beat them down here, would be such a big impetus for them, because they really haven't been able to put together big games in a row.
Well, we haven't forgotten about Dan Marino, who needs that 151 yards passing to pass Dan Fouts, and if he's able to get there, he would just trail Fran Tarkenton in all the major categories. But ask Dan Marino about milestones. He's willing to wait for those, and Super Bowls are upmost on his mind.
Well, as I said before, 151 yards for Dan Marino isn't that big a deal. I don't think he's ever had a game under 151 yards.
Irving Spikes and O.J. McDuffie back to receive the Biasucci kick, and McDuffie comes out from the 2. Across the 25. Spinning his way up to about the 28. 27-yard kick return by O.J. McDuffie. We'll take our first time out from Miami and send you to New York and Greg Gumbel.
All right, Dan, at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, the Falcons on the board first against the Chargers. Watch the effort from Terrence Mathis. He will fight his way 9 yards into the end zone. The Falcons add the extra point. They lead the San Diego Chargers. Second quarter now. It's 7-0 Falcons. Dan?
All right, Greg, thank you very much. Falcons seemed like they were poised to pull off an upset with Stan Humphries out of quarterback for San Diego. Gail Gilbert started that game. Dan Marino and the Dolphins on their second possession. Play action fake. And Marino out of the backfield to Keith Byers. Byers shaking the tackle, gets it up to about the 34-yard line before he's stopped by Quentin Coriat. Coriat, along with Bennett, a little banged up, suffering from the pinched nerves.
You're going to see Marino drop back here. And on top of your screen, you're not going to see him. Irving Fryer crossing, but the ball dropped off to Keith Byers. Now, that may be the start of what these guys were complaining about last week. The backs and the tight ends getting it instead of the wide receivers.
Talk about milestones. Keith Byers needed only 3 receptions. Now just needs 2 to have his another 50-plus receiving season. Bernie Parmalee, how about another milestone for him? Trying to become the first Dolphin running back in history to string 3 100-yard rushing games in a row. He's led the team in rushing each of the last 5 games. He started the last 3.
And it's just a handoff deep, and he's just basically picking his way through the little gaps on the inside. Very good vision. You see him here just finding it, making the break, and moving out, getting out, avoiding Quentin Coriat there, making the tackle, just finding the little gaps to slip through.
First and 10 for the Dolphins from the 44. Byers in motion to the near side. Quick drop by Marino, and he's got Keith Jackson, number 88, close to midfield. Well, you saw Byers with a reception and Keith Jackson making the reception. They were the bulk of the receiving targets for Dan Marino last week. Jackson had 6 catches. And Keith Byers led the team with 8 catches, and that's what Ingram and Fryer were grumbling about this week in practice a bit.
But you know, early in the season, Byers and Jackson weren't getting the balls.
Silver Week presentation once again this season. We're honoring
Miami trailing 7-3. We'll be right back to Joe Robbie with the second quarter right after this.
Academics and Community Service.
The second quarter at Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, and Indianapolis has dominated the first quarter, especially in the time of possession department. We'll take a look at those first quarter statistics in just a moment. But Bob, you mentioned that Miami looks a little flat today.
Well, they don't seem to have a spark going. They're a team that is very good. They're used to going out and doing business as usual, but they're up against a highly fired up Colt team right now.
Second down and 4, ball just short of midfield, and the pitch to Parmalee. Parmalee will be short of the first down. Coriat makes the stop for Indianapolis, and when you do look at the time of possession in the first quarter, 11-14 for Indianapolis versus 3 minutes and change for Miami.
I'll tell you what, if you have the ball for 3 and 3 minutes and 46 seconds, unless you're hitting some long passes and scoring some points, you're not going to do very well. You've got to get that ball, and you've got to maintain some drives. The Colts are the guys that are just taking the ball, moving it down the field, and just controlling the field.
And it could be 10-3 Indianapolis had it not been for the blocked field goal by Chris Singleton. Third down and a long one. Parmalee, and I believe he'll be short. Harrod and Stephen Grant combining on the tackle. Harrod leading the Colts with 98 tackles coming into this game.
The Colts working very well together as a team. On that play, you saw Quentin Coriat coming up through the gap, making the hit on Keith Byers, taking him out as the lead blocker, which allowed Harrod to just fill and make the play.
And they'll come out and measure to see if Parmalee picks up the first down. Marino heads to the sideline for a quick chat with Don Shula, just short.
I don't think you can get any shorter.
There is Bernie Kosar, who said he was exhausted last week after his 3 handoffs against New England, jokingly talking
his conditioning's down just a little bit.
He got his first action as a Dolphin last week, Bernie Kosar did, after not playing in the first 7 games.
You know, we talk about the Colts having some good quarterbacks in there. Bernie Kosar as Dan Marino's backup really gives them some good depth. You know, Kosar having a great career with the Cleveland Browns before he moved on behind Aikman in Dallas. Now here backing up Dan Marino, and he is the guy that can step in and do it should Dan have any problems.
Short yardage offensive set for Miami. Keith Jackson, Ronnie Williams, Greg Beatty. 3 tight end set on 4th and inches. Busting his way. I believe he got the surge for the first down. Stephen Grant tried to stop him, but great extra effort by Parmalee to pick up the first down.
Yeah, a big stick up front. You know, both offensive, defensive line just jamming. Great hitting up front. Parmalee coming up. You see Quentin Coriat really getting a good shot on Williams there, but Parmalee getting it by himself, pushing over, giving number 85, Ronnie Williams, the tight end, just a little bit of extra push. Going, hey, if you're going to block for me, you got to push a little harder here. Let me help you.
Those 273 yards rushing the last 2 games, breaking Mercury Morris's total back in '73. Play action, Marino to the air, and Marino in and out of the hands of Irving Fryer. Eugene Daniel on the coverage for the Colts.
A great play by Eugene Daniel. I actually think that the ball here was knocked away by Eugene Daniels. He gets his hand in, is able to get his hand in before he's able to get possession of the ball. Great play by number 36, Eugene Daniel.
2nd down and 10 for Miami. 12:56 left in the first half. Indianapolis leading the Dolphins 7-3. Marino, quick zip. Complete. And so Jay McDuffie with his first reception of the game. Coriat makes the stop on McDuffie, but in talking to Shula yesterday, he said he wanted to get McDuffie a little bit more involved in the offense today.
Yeah, you're going to see him, O.J. McDuffie, coming in from the left side. He's going to break in, he's going to plant, and he's going to step back out. Oh, you didn't get to see the route there. He started in, planted, and then made the turn back to the outside, clearing him away from the coverage guy. But you're right, he's a guy that has been a special teams guy. His special teams number, kickoff returns, punt returns have been down quite a bit. I think Coach Shula wants to get him to more involved, give him some confidence.
3rd down and 2 for Miami. And Marino across the middle, wanted the tight end Keith Jackson. Good defensive play by David Tate as a flag comes in. Is that on Tate?
He seemed like he came through pretty clear, you know, unless he put his hand on Jackson's back. But
well, the new rules. We'll see if how this is interpreted.
Take a look here. You're going to see the bottom of your screen. Yeah, that may have been it. He had his hand on the back of Jackson's numbers.
Holding number 49 by the defense. 5 yards. First down.
And indeed it is against Tate. And it'll mean a Miami first down to keep the drive alive.
Yeah, a lot of times you see these receivers as they try and get that separation from your coverage guy. A lot of times these coverage guys, if they don't have that great breaking quickness, they'll try and kind of catch a ride, hook on, and let them pull them with you.
1st and 10, Marino out of the shotgun. Out of the backfield is Byers, upended at the 28-yard line by Damon Watts, and Byers is down. Very slow getting up. James Saxon, number 22, is already coming onto the field to give Byers a rest.
Yeah. It looked like he just took a shot low in the shins. You'll see him there clearing out of the backfield, a little dump pass, and as he turns, he gets a hit right in the knees. Maybe a little bruise on the shin or a little hyperextension on the knee.
Well, Byers, with his receptions already today, has continued his streak. 112 straight games. That streak began in '87.
Well, as I was saying before, they weren't throwing to Byers and Jackson early in the season. And in talking to Dan Marino yesterday, he said, this kind of goes through cycles. You start hitting the receivers, and pretty soon the defenses go, listen, he's going to the wide receivers. He's doing the deep stuff. He's running the intermediate routes. We got to cover them. When they do that, it leaves the underneath stuff open. This happens to be the time where they're doing the dumps to Byers and Jackson. Once they cover that, they'll go back to the receivers, and everybody will be happy.
Byers walking off the field. We'll try to get an update on his condition, but we'll remind you tonight, It's the most anticipated event of the television season. Get ready for the adventure.
I thought it was on last week. You know, when you said it was 2 weeks, I'm going, no, come on. Come on, you're teasing me here. To think we're going to have Sequest and Earth 2. It'll be fun Sunday nights for me from now on.
Byers still not off the field, very slow. I think if there's one player on this Miami team that might be indisposable outside of Dan Marino, it might be Byers, who blocks, catches, runs, shows up every week, never complains, and that would be a big loss.
You're right. He does absolutely everything. He's a great blocker. We've seen that. He can run the ball. He has the acceleration and quickness to be able to break it out of the backfield. But I think one of the things we're seeing him used mostly is as a receiver. He has a great ability to block and then release and catch that little dump pass or run the little short routes.
Well, the drive continues for Miami without Byers. 2nd down and 6. Over the middle, wide open, Irving Fryer. 1st down inside the 20, dragged down by Damon Watts. Ingram may have sat out practice. Irving Fryer said he plays it a little differently when he's upset with the amount of catches. He says, I get a little quiet.
Yeah, exactly. Here you see Irving Fryer catching the ball. Now, the problem is that they're dumping it to these guys. As a defense, when the offense runs these short routes, as a linebacker, your first instinct is to come up and make the play, but you've got to stay back and hold your zones, and that frees those guys up. You get it to a quick guy, he's going to pick up some extra yardage. 1st down and 10. Parmalee bounces off the right side down to about the 16, stopped by Stephen Grant. The story's been well documented. Just a couple of years ago, Bernie Parmalee cleaning bowling alleys, did that in the afternoon. Drove a UPS delivery truck in the mornings, then on to school. And as you mentioned earlier on the NFL Live show, Bernie Parmalee knew in high school one day he'd be playing wide receiver for said in his
Miami
yearbook
Dolphins.
He wanted to be a receiver for the Dolphins.
He'll settle for running back, and he'll settle for another carry here inside the 15. Jeff Parad making the stop. Well, they ran what you can call an OT. Washington calls an OT. Other teams call a stutter. You see the backside tackle and guard pulling, setting up, coming through. You see Richmond Webb pulling up through the hole, clearing the way. A good-sized hole for Parmalee to come up and pick up some yardage. Bernie Parmalee, after last week's game, says, I believe I will rush for 1,000 yards. And, of course, Miami without a 1,000-yard rusher since 1978. And Delvin Williams, he needs to average 63 yards a game to get to the 1,000-yard plateau. 3rd down and 3. Byers out of the ball game. Marino, quick out to the flats, wanted Parmalee incomplete. Excellent defensive play by Tate. And Tate was right there to make the play. Parmalee just dropped the ball. I don't know if he just lost concentration or if he heard the footsteps, but you got to look also at the offensive line. The Miami Dolphin offensive line is doing a great job of protection. These guys they've kept Marino free and clear for quite a while. He's always one of the guys in the league that has been sacked one of the least amount of times of anybody in the league. So that offensive line has really learned to work together well. Again, the Dolphin drive stalls, and Pete Stoyanovich, having already made a 33-yard field goal, this one attempt from 32 yards out. Plenty of leg, but no good. Stoyanovich uncharacteristically missing from just 32 yards out. And with 9:17 left in the half, Indianapolis remains a 4-point lead. Okay, Pete Stoyanovich missing the field goal. Watch here, his left foot is his plant foot. As he plants and swings to hit the ball, you're going to watch his foot buckle. It pulls him off to his left, which throws him off his rhythm. Thus the miss. Had good snap, good hold. To make matters even worse, Keith Byers a moment ago carted off the field as Indianapolis begins this drive from the 22. And Potts with the first carry. So perhaps we'll see James Saxon in relief of Keith Byers at the fullback position for Miami for the rest of the afternoon, but a big loss for the Dolphins. You know, the Colts, the Indianapolis Colts are a team. You're seeing Roosevelt Potts kind of hobbling off the field here. Took a shot. You know, in talking to Ted Marchibroda, he listed 3 things
that have made the Colts, brought them back and made them better. One was their offensive line. Number 2 was Roosevelt Potts. And number 3 is Marshall Faulk. So obviously these other guys are very, very important to this offense.
Mikowski's pass falling incomplete, intended for Marshall Faulk. So with Roosevelt Potts limping off the field, Ronald Humphrey and Faulk were in the backfield for Mikowski.
Well, as Marshall Faulk broke out of the backfield to run that the quick up route down the field, he was bumped by Chris Singleton, slowed him down a little bit. There was a timing pattern between Mikowski and Faulk, and I think that that slowdown by Chris Singleton on Marshall Faulk just didn't allow the connection on the pass.
2 impressive drives to start the game for Indianapolis. A touchdown, a block field goal. This third drive, not nearly as successful. 3rd down and 10. 7 defensive backs in for Miami. Mikowski, far side, incomplete, intended for Sean Dawkins. 4th down, and the Colts will punt it away.
Well, talking to Tom Olivadotti yesterday, he was talking about the Colt offense. You're going to see here at the top of your screen, Faulk going upfield, Dawkins breaking to the inside. The ball is just thrown high and hard and just not able to grab it. But Tom Olivadotti made the point. He goes, this Colt offense is so productive that only 5 times in the last 4 games have they actually did 3 and out. What we just saw there, 3 plays and punt the ball. Only 5 times in 4 games. Other than that, they've been able to really generate offense.
The veteran Ron Stark hangs it long and high for O.J. McDuffie. Backs him up to the 22. He'll get up to about the 27 for 5-yard return after a 55-yard punt by Stark. Indianapolis leads it 7-3. Back to Joe Robbie in a moment. Back in Miami, the former Charger quarterback Dan Fouts, his illustrious career spanning 14 years with the San Diego Chargers. Number 2 on the all-time passing list going into today's game, but Fouts' status in jeopardy today as Dan Marino, who needed 151 coming in, has 32, so the countdown is 119 yards now for Marino to move in to Fouts' spot at number 2 as they begin this series from the 27. Deep drive, and a set to Parmalee on the left side, and Parmalee maybe get back to the line of scrimmage. David Tate came up from his strong safety position to make the stop.
Well, they set it up well here, but I don't think that the defensive linemen buy it. Dan drops back, drops the ball to Parmalee. A lot of defensive guys, you're seeing Saragusa, you're seeing Coriat, a lot of guys reacting to that play. Probably wasn't set up as well as it could have been. Nobody really bought that one, and Parmalee suffered the price.
Parmalee had 4 receptions last week, 8 on the season. He dislocated his thumb last week, and it's been a little harder for him to handle the football, and he'll lose more yardage on this play. Tony McCoy making the stop for Indianapolis up front.
Well, unfortunately, when you're a guy that's been having success, people start to pay more attention to you, and that's exactly what's happening to Parmalee right now. We were talking before about how he was working these other jobs, and then finally he was given a chance. His agent went in and was trying to negotiate this contract. He's going, I don't care about the money, just get me into camp. And the guy, no, we'll get you more money. Finally he goes, I fired him.
Tony Bennett, who did not start the game for Indianapolis, is back in the defensive unit for the Colts on 3rd down and 9. It's O.J. McDuffie for 1st down yardage. They'll spot him at the 41. Damon Watts making the stop on McDuffie, but not before he moves the chains.
Well, that completion was made up front. You see the right side of your screen. You're seeing Tate and Stephen Grant trying to blitz. Blitz picked up perfectly. And the dump pass dropped off here really just outran Eugene Daniels had the separation on him and just ran away from him. But the success of that play was made up front with the pickup of that blitz.
Marino mixing it around to his wealth of talent. Play action flushed out. Has to get rid of it. Intended for James Saxon, who is coming to the ball game for the injured Keith Byers.
Dan Marino being pressured here. Doesn't happen that often. You see down at the bottom of your screen, being pulled down. But that's the frustrating thing about Dan Marino as a defensive player. When you go and you get a hold on this guy, you think you got the sack. He always knows where a receiver is. He has that quick release where he can get that ball away. So a lot of times you think you got the sack, you look up and Dan's laying there smiling at you.
Second down and 10. Just 7 sacks all season. Marino has a quick trigger, but that offensive line gives him time. Saxon makes his first reception of the game. Spins his way up to about the 45-yard line, where he's met by Coriat and Harad.
Well, we're starting to see some games up front. They know they have to get some pressure on Marino. Sims running a little tackle game inside, just dumping it off the middle. The thing that is working the best for the Dolphins right now, dump the ball to Sacks in the middle. They're pretty much hitting everybody in exactly the same place. Whether it be a running back or a wide receiver, they're all being hit right over the middle, about 5, 7, 10 yards.
3rd and 7. Fryer and Williams, Ingram and McDuffie, the 4 wideouts in for the Dolphins. Marino looking right all the way and making the sliding catch for the first down is McDuffie. Big game so far for the former #1 pick last year out of Penn State. Ray Buchanan makes the stop on OJ.
Well, you're going to see it on the left side of your screen. The ball's thrown. Ray Buchanan is deep. Ashley Ambrose, number 33, following him in. He found a spot between the 2 coverage people. Marino, that great vision, able to spot just about every receiver out there, finds the open man again.
1st and 10 for Miami at the Colt 41. 3 catches, 31 yards already for McDuffie. Marino just shovels it up in front of him to Saxon, and Saxon gets 3 or 4. So Marino nimble on his feet, also nimble with a shovel pass.
And that's the awareness. I mean, this guy, even when he's in trouble, is able to find an outlet, find a way out. Here again, he gets a little pressure. He starts to scramble, step out of the way. You know, and he's not a guy that is worried about his aesthetics. He doesn't care if it looks pretty. Oh, sure, every once in a while for a photo, but that was just a little dump, picked up a couple of yards.
2nd down and 5. 3:57 left in this quick-moving first half. Burst up the middle, Parmalee for the first down to the Colt 25. Watts makes the stop on Parmalee, but another big gain for the 3rd-year player out of Ball State, who signed as a free agent a couple of years ago, the featured back now in Miami's back.
Well, absolutely nothing fancy here. You see Coriat coming up to try and make the play. Man-on-man blocking up front. The Miami Dolphin offensive line just controlling the defense. They got up there. They got the defensive linemen blocked up. They came in. The linebackers were Herod was occupied in the middle. He wasn't able to break free.
Parmalee again. 3 or 4 more. Down to the 21 or 22. Herod makes the stop. We talked with Don Shula yesterday and talked about what a great story Bernie Parmalee has been. And I asked Don, in your 32 years as an NFL head coach, is this one of the best stories you've ever seen? And he said, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. He's a guy that, given the opportunity, that's what a lot of people like to see. A guy that comes up and is given the opportunity and makes the best of that opportunity.
10 carries in his first 2 seasons with Miami. The featured back in 94. Marino in and out of the hands of Jackson, picked off by Tate. David Tate with an interception last week has the tipped pass interception by Marino for his 2nd interception in as many weeks and in as many starts for the injured Jason Belser. So key turnover by the Colts as they try to hang on to a 7-3.
Well, let's look at the interception one more time. Dan Marino throwing to Keith Jackson. Jackson just off his fingers. This one's on Jackson, and Tate just be able to scoop it up at the bottom of your screen. Get a couple extra yards, get in good field position.
Meanwhile, Mikowski complete to Marshall Falk. And that'll be a Colt first down as they begin this drive with 2:20 left.
Well, this is an important drive for the Indianapolis Colts right now. We finally saw a sign, a spark of life from the Dolphins down here in their home stadium. If they keep that up, it's going to be a hard day for them. The Colts have to prove and they have to show everybody that what they did in that first quarter wasn't a fluke, that they have the ability to sustain these drives. Their last time was a 3-and-out.
As we approach the 2-minute warning, Colts get the playoff. Mikowski pumps once, twice, downfield intended for Falk. Flag comes in. Gene Atkins, the free safety, in the vicinity downfield with Falk.
Well, good patience on Mikowski's part. I mean, he stood there surrounded by people, didn't panic, just got the ball off. Although the pass to a double-covered man was probably the smartest thing in the world.
And a penalty against Miami. Probably on Gene Atkins, 28.
Illegal contact. Number 28 on the defense. 5 yards. First down.
Big penalty.
Okay, you're going to see Atkins coming in right there in the center of your screen. I don't know about that,
Looked
Dan.
to me like they're both going for the ball.
He was going up for the ball, and the rule state, as long as you're going for the ball, it's not a penalty.
Looked incidental to us. 1:56 left. The 2-minute warning. Indianapolis leading 7-3 at the 2-minute warning of the first half. I'll remind you, coming up, the NFL Live halftime report. The Domino's Pizza halftime report. Joe Gibbs, Mike Ditka, and Greg Gumbel in our New York studios, set to take you around the league with scores and highlights on this NFL Sunday. The Colts, with a chance to put some more points on the board, have a 1st and 10 at their 36. Mikowski downfield. He was looking for Floyd Turner. Turner got hung up in his route, spun around, and never had a chance at catching the football.
Now, that looked to me like just a mix-up of communication. Floyd Turner was expecting to go farther down the field. The ball just thrown back behind him a little bit. I just think that they just didn't clearly communicate to each other where that ball was supposed to be located at the end.
Dan Marino's just his 9th interception of the season has given the Colts another chance here as
unfortunately
closing seconds wind down to the first half.
Unfortunately, that was on Jackson, but it still counts against Marino's record.
Colts also taking advantage of a penalty on the interference on Falk. Sean Dawkins is the intended receiver on that route, but that didn't look like it had a prayer either.
Well, it just seems like Don Mikowski he's seeing the guys go deep. He's just really reeling his arm back and just whipping it downfield. The accuracy on the long stuff seems to be off a little bit. You know, he said he went in there before his start last week. I'm talking to him. He said the Wednesday before last week's start, he said, I was so nervous. He goes, I took every snap. I had butterflies. He goes, by Thursday, I started to settle down a little bit, but I still think that he's still feeling some of the pressure of being a guy that has to go in and prove that he can start.
Lamont Warren is in the backfield with Marshall Falk on 3rd and 10. Mikowski downfield wide open was Falk, but Mikowski unable to put it on the money. Gene Atkins and J.B. Brown were back, but Falk was wide open, and if he gets the ball in his hands down there, he's gone.
And you see him here in the middle of your screen, breaking to the outside, wide open. I don't, just again, wow. Just a misconnection between Mikowski and Falk. And I think you see him there bent over on the sidelines as he went past Michael Stewart. Stewart kind of made a little contact, and I think Marshall might have caught a little shot in the stomach. Could have been a big play. Instead, Ron Stark with another excellent punt drives McDuffie back to the 12. Whoa, he's going to handle it. And they'll mark him out at the 17. 53-yard punt by Stark. Aaron Bailey made the tackle on McDuffie. Leaving it alone. Derwin Gray coming in to make the play. And I've never seen anything like that. I mean, that's a gutsy move. Gray would have just downed it right there. Obviously, O.J. McDuffie feeling he can make something out of it. Well, there's Marshall Falk, who has come out on a few plays in the opening series early in the game. You know what? As I said, as he broke that last pattern to the outside, Michael Stewart bumped him, and it looked like it was a pretty good shot to the midsection. I think he may have got a shoulder or a hand to the midsection, because when he was kind of running sideways at the end of that pass, and as soon as he went out of bounds, he doubled over on the sideline. So I think it was just like a wind or something getting bumped, like I said, on the pass route. Don Mikowski missing Falk on what would have been a touchdown. Miami working with 1:28, and they begin at the 17.
But just the 8th time, and doing the honors was 57 Devon McDonald. McDonald with his first sack of the season, and it'll cost Miami 8 yards.
Now, we talked about how strong the offensive line is for the Dolphins. Here, just a mix-up in communication. Somebody misses McDonald on the outside because he came fairly clean. I think they started to run a game. They came out of it, and he just came clean on the outside.
Marino trying to get some of it back. Juggled by Bernie Parmalee, incomplete. That was just the first career sack for McDonald.
And if you're going to get a
round pick last year.
And if you're going to get a sack, your first career one, and you get it on Dan Marino.
Yeah, how big is that?
That's huge. That's huge. Because like I said before, his release is so quick. It's not just the protection of the O-line, but his release is so quick that a lot of times you think you've got the sack. He's got the ball gone.
McDonald has filled in very admirably for Quentin Coriat, who has been injured in the Colts linebacking core. 3rd and 17. Shovel to Parmalee. Cross the 20. Parmalee dives. He'll be short. Dolphins just 2 of 6 on 3rd down conversions, including that failed one.
Well, you go with a guy who got you to the dance, and Parmalee's been the man for the last couple of weeks.
By the way, Bernie Parmalee is no longer a member of the special teams. Don Shula making that statement
and he's upset about that.
Yeah, he said he goes, I'll miss being on the punt coverage team.
Right, he said, he goes, well, you know, maybe they'll let me get in there, maybe in the punt coverage or the kickoff coverage, but he's too valuable at this point.
Coming up on most of these NBC stations next, game 2 of our NFL doubleheader. Most of you will see Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills. They're going to try to avenge their season opening loss against Boomer Esiason and the New York Jets. And then some of you will see a couple of teams looking to rebound from tough defeats last week. Drew Bledsoe lost to this Miami team last week. They go against the Cleveland Browns. Jim Arnold back to punt for Miami on 4th down and 6. Dewell Brewer, first-year player out of Oklahoma, stands back at his 37. Spot that one out of bounds at the 41.
Well, he shanked it a little bit, but he got a pretty good roll there at the end. Gave him about an extra 5 or 7 yards.
38-yard punt by the veteran Jim Arnold in his 12th year out of Vanderbilt.
You can still hear, you start to hear these fans here getting a little impatient. They know that this is a very, very good Dolphin team, and they expect them to succeed. And they feel that there's no way they should lose to the Colts.
And already Jim Harbaugh is in the game for Indianapolis, taking over for Don Majkowski. And you mentioned at the top of the show, we could see a quarterback by committee for Indianapolis this season, and Majkowski missing Falk in the last series. They've gone with Jim Harbaugh, who's got all of 44 seconds to work with here before the first half comes to a close. But Harbaugh back in. Rolling to his right. He'll run it out of bounds, close to the 45, stops the clock with 36 seconds left. So Jim Harbaugh, after sitting out last week's game and the beginning portion of this game, back in at quarterback for Indianapolis.
And here you see Jim Harbaugh dropping back, just making a little scramble. He's a guy that can scramble and throw the ball very well on the run. Here he opts to get a little bit of yardage by himself instead of making an ill-advised throw. But Nick Nicola, the offense coordinator, said that initially Harbaugh had played well but the team results didn't really equate with his performance. So that's why they went with Majkowski. But now Majkowski's out. He's got a thumb injury.
And Harbaugh on the money to Mark Jackson. And that'll be a first down.
So you've got to wonder if that thumb injury goes back to the beginning of the game when his hand, remember on that one pass, his hand made contact with Marco Coleman's helmet.
Majkowski upset probably with the injury. We'll check on him in the locker room, see if he'll come out and play in the second half, but he is headed into the locker room early with 23 seconds left. Harbaugh is 3-5 as the starter for Indianapolis, and it really was not a matter of the job he was doing. As we mentioned, the top-rated quarterback in the AFC. Ratings are good, but it was wins and losses which accounted for the change by Ted Marchibroda.
As they're saying that his performance, although good, it didn't equal the team doing well. And so they said at that point they needed somebody who was going to spark the team. Makowski, a short-lived chance. We'll have to wait for an update on the thumb, but you know, as a quarterback, if you can't grab that ball, you can't control it, as we saw in that last series when he was trying to throw the deep throws.
Just into Miami territory. Harbaugh trying to run it out. Gets back to about the line of scrimmage, but Craig Vesey comes in to drop Harbaugh.
Vesey's been a spot player for the Dolphins who's come in and made some big plays. That's one of the things they like about him.
Harbaugh just downs it, and that stops the clock with 7 seconds left. Well out of Biasucci's range for a field goal. So we'll see if the Colts take a shot at the end zone.
Oh, you look at this game so far, and both quarterbacks have had great protection. They both have had time. Now we're seeing Harbaugh, I think, getting a little antsy. I think he's really anxious to try and make something happen. That's why he's moving around so much back there.
3rd and 10. Harbaugh in and out of the hands of Floyd Turner, incomplete. 1 second left. Troy Vincent on the coverage of Turner, and that ball probably should have been caught by a veteran.
That was just a miss. I mean, all the time in the world for Jim Harbaugh. The Dolphins running the so-called prevent defense. They're rushing 3 guys. And I'll tell you what, as a defensive lineman, you don't want to be one of those 3 guys pass rushing, because you got like 5 or 6 guys blocking you. It's like a pinball machine in there, but it usually gives a quarterback quite a bit of time. The only advantage is you've got a lot of coverage people.
4th and 10, and with just 1 second left, the Colts will take another shot of the Hail Mary variety. Ball juggled. And Tyrone Braxton comes up with the interception as the first half comes to a close in Miami. The Colts on top 7-3. Now we send you to Greg Gumbel in New York for the Domino's Pizza NFL Live halftime report. This is the halftime in Miami. The Indianapolis Colts trying to pull off an upset over the AFC East leading Miami Dolphins. They lead at 7-3 at halftime. I'm Dan Hicks along with Bob Golick. Before we talk about the particulars of the first half, let's first show you the interception by Tyrone Braxton, which closed out the first half.
Right, you can see Braxton is a deep man. On the Hail Mary play, he is told to be the deepest man on the field. Don't let anybody past you. The ball tipped, he snags it. Now here you're going to see, I believe it was the first quarter, Coleman coming in. Magic's hand making contact with Marco Coleman's helmet. We believe that that's where the thumb injury had occurred.
Not the only injury. Keith Byers was also carted off in the first half as a result of this play.
And as he takes the hit here, it looks like he had a hyperextension of the knee. We're still waiting for a report from the locker room. At this point, we're just speculating, but it looks like it may be a hyperextension of his knee.
So, Bob, forget about milestones. Dan Marino coming in trying to be number 2 on the all-time passing list. You've got Bernie Parmalee trying to get 100 yards, first ever Dolphin runner, 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. He's got 40. Marino needs 72 for his milestone. They're just trying to get out of this game with a win now.
Right, everybody, they've got all these numbers they got to worry about. Right now, the only numbers they got to worry about is 7-3. I think that they were focusing on some other things, and they have to realize that this Indianapolis Colt team is formidable. You know, this has been kind of schizophrenic as of late, but they brought the good one today.
Coors Light halftime stats. The Colts had the big advantage in statistics early in the game. They had a couple of very good drives to start off the game, but Miami has taken over in the possession department. The one turnover uncharacteristic for Dan Marino, throwing an interception, which quelled a drive for them.
Well, again, you've got to realize on the interception, the ball was thrown to Keith Jackson. It went off his fingertips. The ball was thrown well. It was up high, away from the coverage people, and the ball was tipped. So even though the number goes against Dan Marino, the responsibility goes on Keith Jackson.
The Dolphins outscored in the first quarter 41-9. They've had 3 field goals in the first quarter. They had a scoreless second quarter as Dean Biasucci's ready to kick it back into play for the Colts. McDuffie and Irving Spikes back deep for Miami. McDuffie will come up to the 14. And McDuffie gets out to about the 27, return of 13 for O.J. McDuffie, brought down by Devon McDonald, who had a key sack early in the first half. Roosevelt Potts injury update. He has a sprained ankle, and his return to this ball game is questionable for Indianapolis offensively. A bruised and sprained right thumb for Don Majkowski, and his return is doubtful. We saw Jim Harbaugh with seconds left in the first half take over, so we anticipate seeing him when the Colts begin their offense. Parmalee gets the first carry. So the only substantial news we know about the injuries is that Keith Byars will not be back in the Miami offense.
Right now we're looking, we were talking about the stats here at halftime, and the one stat from at the end of the first quarter we noticed is that the Colts had the ball for a significant amount of time. The Dolphins only for 3.5 minutes approximately. At halftime, the Dolphins had surpassed them in time of possession. That's what they need to do. They need to control this ball and start to get some substantial drives together.
Marino to the far sideline, and that is complete. That is Irving Fryer. Damon Watts makes the stop, but another first down for Miami.
Well, we're going to see Irving Fryer here making the completion up at the top of your screen. Makes the break, a good separation here, and great attention, great awareness by Fryer. He sees the defender as soon as he breaks to cover the potential deep route. Fryer breaks off and makes the comeback. Great timing on him, and a good hard throw by Dan Marino.
First down at the 46. Here's Parmalee, bursts across midfield into Colt territory. He's down to the 46. Barad makes the stop for Indianapolis, but Bernie Parmalee, who had the 40 yards in the first half, seems intent on becoming that first Dolphin running back with 3 straight 100-yard games.
We talked to Vince Tobin from the Colts yesterday, and he was talking about the Miami offensive line. He says, you know what? He goes, because the Dolphins have used 4 different backs, and all the backs together have averaged 4.1 yards per carry. So it's got to be the offensive line that is doing the great job up front blocking.
Parmalee again, and Parmalee has a first down. He's close to the 40-yard line. Barad and Eugene Daniel combine on the stop for Indianapolis, but it's been Parmalee to start this second half for Miami.
Well, we talk about Marshall Faulk's ability to pick a hole and change direction. Here, Parmalee proves that he can do it too. He went to the initial point of attack, saw it was stuffed up, made the break to the outside, and was actually able to turn the corner on a couple defenders, get up, pick up the first down.
And actually taking a rest here as Irving Spikes and James Saxon flank Marino out of the shotgun.
He did look like he was breathing a little heavy.
And Marino out of the backfield has Saxon, and Saxon is inside the 35. Tony Siragusa chases him down from his defensive line position, but Saxon becomes a key figure in this game with Byars out. Saxon, the 6th-round draft pick for Kansas City back in '88. Just 4 carries all year and no receptions all of '94 season before this game.
Well, this is going to be his game with Byars out and the way they've been relying on the reception, the dump passes to the backs out of the backfield. Saxon's going to have to be the guy.
2nd and 3. Parmalee's back in, and Parmalee trying to get the first down. He should be short. Stephen Grant making the stop for Indianapolis. Grant, the 3rd-year player, and a 10th-round pick back in '92. He's a good story in his own right. Number 59, Stephen Grant for the Colts. Had a team-high 15 tackles last week against the Jets and was the number 1 special teams tackler for this Colt team last year. 3rd and short, less than a yard. Play action. Marino downfield, excellent defensive play by Ray Buchanan. Intended for Keith Jackson, but Buchanan tips it away.
What a great play, great timing on Buchanan's part. Keith Jackson breaking down the field, making the turn, going for the ball. The ball thrown a little bit high, getting it up and out of the way so Keith Jackson can get up and reach for it. Buchanan coming up over the top, very clean, didn't touch the receiver, and knocked the ball away. Great play by Ray Buchanan.
It would be about a 48-yard attempt for Stoyanovich, but on 4th and less than a yard, the Dolphins are going for it. And did they get it? Parmalee with the attempt, and it appears the spot will enable the drive to continue. Harrod makes the stop, but too late. The Dolphins have another first down.
We can see the inside blocking here. The Dolphin offensive line doing a great job getting a good push on the Colts defensive line. The Colts actually got in there pretty tough, but the thing was they didn't sustain. You know, you get a guy stalemated, you've got to get separation and get off and make the play. When they tried to get the separation, they allowed the Dolphin offensive line to keep in contact and to get that little extra push that they needed to get the yardage.
Marino flips it out to Saxon. Saxon brought down at the 21. Eugene Daniels with the initial hit on him.
The ball was thrown to Saxon, but about 5 yards deeper than Saxon was Parmalee, and I think Parmalee thought the ball was coming to him. You'll see Saxon on the right side, or Saxon right in the middle, Parmalee right in front of him. I think the ball he thought was coming to him. Saxon grabbed it and said, hey, I got to start blocking somebody.
Like Byers, Saxon very versatile. First 4 years with Kansas City, he was a fullback, halfback, blocker, special teams guy, kickoff return guy. 2nd and 2. Parmalee inside the 20. Need to get inside the 19 for the first down. Bernard Whittington makes the stop for the Colts. Whittington getting extra playing time in place of the injured Tony Bennett.
Well, we see Saxon. You know, we talk about Saxon making some big play. He's the one that's supposed to seal the backside on Whittington. Whittington just great speed and quickness, sealing down the line, making the play.
I can see Keith Byers as they come out to measure has reemerged on the Miami sidelines. He's on crutches. His right knee is in a full-length brace as Miami picks up the first down. So Byers not returning. Saxon has taken up the workload today.
Now the good news is that having him on the sidelines is good news. I mean, if it was something serious, they'd be taking him away and doing more examinations. Right now, it's, as we said before, it looked like it was just a hyperextension, probably some swelling. They want to immobilize it and try and keep the swelling down.
Pitch, Parmalee. Quick burst to the 15. He really does have a good second burst. You think that you have him wrapped up and he finds another gear, not like a Marshall Faulk gear, but just pretty runner to watch.
Yeah, Marshall's got that overdrive.
He doesn't have that
got gear. You're going to see here Keith Jackson doing a great job blocking on the outside on Freddie Joe Nunn, and that's what allowed him to turn the corner and turn upfield. But you know, we talk about the versatility of some of these guys, about the Meyer, about the Keith Jackson. There you see Keith Jackson as a blocker and doing a great job.
Gain of 5 for Parmalee, 2nd and 5. Parmalee again this time. He cuts it up the middle. Tony McCoy met him. And it should bring him 3rd down and short.
Well, McCoy's a young guy that they're really counting on, but look at the offensive line just controlled. They're double teaming down the line. They're sharing blocks, kind of pushing off, really just getting a nice bow in the center of that line, giving Parmalee the ability and the room to make the cut, where he makes that cut back and finds the open spot.
Miami just 2 of 7 on 3rd down conversions. They'll need just a yard here. And they'll give it to Parmalee. Parmalee looks like he's got it. David Tate, the strong safety, trying to prevent Parmalee.
Well, they got the fans going now. They're seeing the Dolphin team that they know and love, the ones that can control the ball, move it down, and right now they're using the tools that are working for them, and that's one of the great indicators of Don Shula. He's the guy that is able to make the adjustments as he goes. He sees what's working. He knows right now that the Dolphin offensive line is starting to wear down that Colt defense, and he's getting a lot of good push up front.
They'll come out and measure as Parmalee heads to the sidelines for a rest. Well beyond the first down marker, so Miami with 1st and goal, the ball just inside the 9. You know, Marino may not get his milestone today, but Parmalee looks like he's reestablished himself. This has turned into the Parmalee drive. And Parmalee will head back into the lineup. Irving Spikes will head back to the sidelines. 7:32 left in the 3rd quarter. Indianapolis up 7-3. That was the halftime score. And Miami looking for its first touchdown of this game. All they have is a Pete Stoyanovich first half field goal. Parmalee met by a host of Colts up front, including a couple of linebackers and Coriat and Hurrad.
Well, you see Jeff Hurrad, the middle linebacker, reading the break as he goes back to react to it. Whittington making the initial hit. You know, a good play up front. The only problem is they're making these tackles. The only problem is that it's 5 yards downfield.
Well, there's an injured Colt on the field.
Tony McCoy.
That is 61. Tony McCoy will check on his condition with Indianapolis leading 7. Miami's Joe Robbie Stadium. Tony McCoy able to walk off the field under his own power. 2nd down and goal from the 5 for Miami. Trailing 7-3. Parmalee trying to turn the corner, gets inside the 5 down to about the 4-yard line. Eugene Daniel makes the stop on him. That's 15 plays in this drive, and that is Parmalee's 11th carry.
Now watch here. Now this is a good play on the outside by the Colt defense. Parmalee got this yardage by himself. Watch Whittington on the outside. You see Saragusa pushing up the outside. The linebackers filling with Coriat, turning them back inside. Parmalee just finding the open spot, being able to pick up that little bit of yardage on his own.
Parmalee gets it down to the 3, 3rd and goal.
That's frustrating when you play good defense and you still let him get the yardage.
It back to the end zone and completing one at Irving Fryer. That'll bring up 4th and goal. Ray Buchanan back there along the depths of the end zone, and Pete Stoyanovich will come on, and Miami will remain touchdownless to this point.
It actually looked like he was initially looking for Parmalee going out in the flat. He had a nice angle shot out to the flat, but the coverage guys came up and covered him quickly. Dan had to turn and look for a secondary guy.
Yeah, it looked like a possible audible at the line of scrimmage for Marino. Instead, this will be a chip shot attempt of 20 yards for Stoyanovich. So Stoyanovich, after missing 1 of 2 in the first half, connects on a 20-yard field goal to pull the Dolphins within 1. Good drive by Miami, but not a touchdown. A field goal by Stoyanovich, 20-yarder, caps a 17-play, 68-yard drive, which chewed up more than 9 minutes. Coming up next on most of these NBC stations, game 2 of our NFL doubleheader. Buffalo and the Jets from the Meadowlands, and then New England taking on the Cleveland Browns.
Tell you what, the New England Patriots right now, they got some problems. You know, they've at 3-5. They thought early on, and we thought too, that they had the tools offensively to overcome some of their defensive shortcomings. That has not been the case. I think some people have started to figure out Drew Bledsoe and been able to shut him down a little bit. So you know, they've got to really struggle, but you know, a guy like Bill Parcells is somebody that's going to be able to kind of keep them focused. I know that he's going to get angry. I've seen him in locker rooms, and
you don't want to be there with him.
He doesn't mind sharing his emotions.
Well, it was good to see Bill check out of the hospital all right this week.
Right.
Best wishes to him. As Stojanovich's kick is taken by Ronald Humphrey. Humphrey with a good return across the 35-40. And Humphrey gets it. Gonna wait for the spot here. 43-yard return by Humphrey, brought down by Muhammad Oliver. Tom Mikowski still with an injured right thumb on the sidelines. He sustained that injury in the first half, and the first give is to Marshall Faulk. Trying to turn the corner. Cross midfield into Miami territory, close to the first down, and where they marked him, it appears he picked it up. There's the magic man.
First down, Colts.
Obviously disappointed.
I'll tell you what, you jam a finger, a thumb especially, there's so much meat down in that area there that it has a tendency to swell up very quickly. And at that point, you have very little control. And I think we saw his last drive out there when he was trying to hit those long passes. He was just letting them soar. I mean, he just didn't have he was throwing them the wrong side of the receiver. He just didn't have the control.
Pitch to Falk. Look at the moves by Marshall Falk. Back the other way. Has a convoy of blockers and is marked out at the 22. Marshall Falk looked like he stood absolutely still on the left side and talked about it yesterday. Ted Marchibroda says his best feature is he goes from 0 to 60 in like no time.
Right, and Tom Olivedade, he's the guy that scared me. He goes, he's got good vision, he's got good maneuverability, but he has great acceleration. Here you saw his vision, you saw his maneuverability, and then when he turned and made the break back, you saw his acceleration. Just turning the corner on the. You see Jim Harbaugh leading the way, trying to get a block on, throwing blocks out there for him.
Giving Marshall a rest. Humphrey and Warren in the backfield. And this is Humphrey. Humphrey for no gain. That was a 23-yard gain by Marshall Falk on the previous play.
Brian Cox making the tackle on that play.
If I'm Ted Marchibroda, I call number 28 right now. Again.
Is that him? Is that him sitting down behind? There he is.
Coach, I'm ready.
Funny you should bring that up, Dan.
Injured right knee and shoulder is the injury report on Bernie Parmalee. He is out for the remainder of this game. So the Dolphins without Parmalee and Byers now, and the Colts lead at 7-6. And this is Humphrey again. Humphrey inside the 10, looking for the end zone. And they're going to mark him out inside the 1. First and goal, Indianapolis. Troy Vincent saved the touchdown, but there is Ronald Humphrey with a big run.
And you talk about the acceleration of Falk. Watch Humphrey here as he starts at the left hand of your screen, hits the pile, breaks out, bumps out. The only person he's got to beat here to the end is his own man, Sean Dawkins, and Dawkins makes a nice hit on him and knocks him out of bounds on the 1-yard line.
Ronald Humphrey had his career best 41 yards rushing last week. He had a couple of big runs which set up some Colt touchdowns last week versus the Jets. Falk and Humphrey in on first and goal inside the 1. Falk. Still no indication. And it's a touchdown for Marshall Falk. His first on the road
outside of the RCA dome
in the 94 season. Brian Cox doesn't seem too happy about it at all either. And you have to keep an eye on Cox at all times.
He's another guy not afraid to share his emotions.
He is capable of exploding, and after the incidents that we've seen in the NFL this season, a lot of big heavy fines.
A lot of fines levied last week for
Jets
players.
Colts game had a big fine on Donald Evans of the Jets.
Right, touching the referee.
So Indianapolis up 13-6. There's Biasucci to try to tack it on to make it 14-6. The hold by Stark, and the kick is good by Biasucci. 3:24 left in the third. Miami in trouble without Parmalee and Byers. They trail it by 8. Bernie Parmalee on the sidelines, an injured right shoulder as well as an injured right knee.
Let's take a look again at the touchdown. You'll see Falk going over the top. Ball coming down right on the goal line. Tough to tell what happened underneath there. Obviously, Brian Cox, as we saw by his negotiating stance he took with the referee, didn't think that it was a touchdown, but Falk with his first touchdown on the road. And
there will be no Dolphin with 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. Parmalee is through with 79 yards. Here's O.J. McDuffie taking the kickoff from the 3. Another excellent return for McDuffie, who gets across the 30-yard line before he's brought down by Derwin Gray.
McDuffie had a lot to prove. I mean, he's really been down this year, so he's excited about how he's been doing so far this game.
trailing 14-6 without Bernie Parmalee and Keith Byers, both injured, and the backup to Parmalee is number 40, Irving Spikes. Now, he was very impressive in preseason play for Miami. He led the Dolphins in rushing with 161 yards. But with Parmalee out and Byers out, it's going to be up to Spikes and James Saxon in relief roles for the Dolphins.
Well, you know, the one thing that the Dolphins have had for the last couple of weeks is that they've had something besides their passing game, and it's made defenses really stress and really work on that offense. If all you can do is pass, then as a defense you can just lay back your ears and go after the guy. But if you have a strong running game, you've got to really pay attention to the play action. There's a lot of things that'll work. Right now, the Dolphins are going to have to go with probably what is their strong suit, and that is going to be the passing game. Jump passes to Spikes, to Saxon, and the long stuff to the receivers.
They begin from the 32. 3:13 left in the third. Right to the air goes Marino, and out of the backfield is Irving Spikes. And the Colts not fooled at all by the screen to Spikes. Gary Howe, the newest addition to the Colt defensive line, just signed this week on Monday, is one of the tacklers for the Colts.
The Dolphin offensive line just is not selling it. They're just the defense for the Colts is just not being lured in. You know, at this point, the Dolphin offensive line is supposed to let them feel like they beat them and are able to get to the quarterback. They're not being fooled. They're going right out to the receiver, and they're making the big play out on that screen.
Spikes loses 3, 2nd and 13. Play action. Marino just bullets it across the offensive line. It was tipped right out of the box. Incomplete. I believe Freddie Joe Nunn
got a late flag.
deflected the pass as a flag comes in late.
We were talking about how strong that Dolphin offensive line has been. Just about every defensive guy was in around Marino on that play.
Ball's illegally touched. It's just loss of down, 3rd down.
They do throw it to a lineman.
Let's see it again.
Do it to a big guy. Seeing a lot of pressure all of Saragusa.
Oh, went off the head of Dellenbach, the center. I wouldn't want to be that close a range when Marino lets go.
You know, squat down a little bit. Dellenbach's 6'5", so you know he's going to get in the way.
Miami only 3 of 9 on 3rd down conversions. This will be the most difficult attempt of 3rd and 13. Flushed out, and it's complete, and it looks like it's a 1st down for O.J. McDuffie. Damon Watts brings down McDuffie, but McDuffie having a huge game for Miami.
Well, you see Dan Marino not so much flushed here as he just wants to get more vision on his receivers. See him trying to break to the outside. And he's one of the quarterbacks one of the few quarterbacks we're seeing, like Elway, like Marino, that can actually run and throw the ball well, almost as well on the run as from the pocket.
4 catches, the 51 yards for McDuffie. That one good for 15. Straight drop by Marino. Fires, complete again. McDuffie, 1st down, Colt 36. Let's go to New York and listen to Greg Gumbel again. Greg.
All right, Dan, we'll take you to the Georgia Dome. Indy viewers will remember former Colt Clarence Verdun. He returns this kickoff 57 yards to help set up an Atlanta field goal as the Falcons have stretched their lead over the Chargers. It's now a 10-6 Atlanta advantage in the 3rd. Dan?
Thank you, Greg. Here in Miami, the Colts lead it 14-6. Gain of 19 for McDuffie. On the ground now is Irving Spikes. And he is an exciting rookie to watch. Free agent signee from Northeast Louisiana. Parmalee's fun to watch, but Spikes has some even more darting moves.
That's what I was just going to say. He's the guy that is more darting, kind of reminiscent of like a Metcalf in Cleveland, a guy who can very quickly change direction. And you know, the way this offensive line for the Dolphins is playing, and the control that they have up front, they should be able to dart and find some of these open holes on the backside.
Pitch, Irving again. Spikes looking for the 1st down yard marker. He has to get to the 26th. He could be short. Parad again on the tackle for the Colts. Irving Spikes led the team in rushing once earlier this season in the September 11th contest against Green Bay when he had 70 of the 79 total rushing yards for Miami in that game as we tick down the final seconds of the third quarter. Indianapolis leads it 14-6. We'll be right back to quarter. Indianapolis has the Dolphins on the ropes, you could say. Miami operating without Parmalee, without Byers.
But going business as usual.
Yeah, Marino steps back and fires away with Spikes out of the backfield.
It looks like they lose their tools. They go to their strong point, Marino. Once he establishes himself, then they start working in Spikes and Saxon.
Third down and 1. Irving with a first down. He's inside the 25. Ray Buchanan making the stop.
Well,
Indianapolis.
In a normal situation, that would have been a great defensive play by Buchanan and by Herod making the hit inside for a stop of like a yard and a half. But when that's all you need for a first down, it doesn't really matter.
Irving Spikes just 5 feet 8, 215 pounds. Those low center of gravity types. First and 10 at the 24. Simpson into Irving Fryer. Close to another first down inside the 15. Ray Buchanan made the hit. A good one on Fryer.
Well, Irving Fryer is getting the passes that he wanted. Here, just the quick in route on the outside. The ball thrown before the coverage guy can actually move in and make the play on him. But that's a few catches for him today. Whereas on the other side, Mark Ingram, still nothing.
Stats through 3 quarters. Miami big on the possession chart, but only 6 points to show for it. Just a couple of Stoyanovich field goals. Second and less than a yard. Spikes has the first down. He should mark it where he surged to, and he at least was at the 14, and he gets the first down indeed. Don Shula racked up more victories against the Colts than any other opponent. And to elaborate on that, Dan Marino 16-5 against the Colts. His best record against any NFL opponent he's played against. So Miami dominating against the Colts, but in trouble here.
And again, here you see Freddie Joe Nunn, the Colt defense, making a great play for a short gain, but unfortunately that was enough for the Colts. That was enough for a first down.
Marino to Saxon. Saxon cuts back to the inside. Pretty good move by James Saxon to get some extra yardage out of it. Farad makes the stop, but Marino has been racking up the yardage. Beating 151 coming into pass fouls, and that does it for Dan Marino. Now the NFL's #2 all-time passing yardage leader, passing Dan Fouts.
Now all he has to do is shoot for Fran Tarkenton.
Fran and Dan show from here on out.
I think Fran's got about 100,000 yards or something, some incredible number.
Second down and 4. Spikes has the first down, looking for the end zone. Touchdown, Miami. And now with the score 14-12 on the Spikes touchdown, you saw Don Shula hold up the 2, and Miami will try to go for the 2-point conversion.
And you said it before, Dan, this low center of gravity. Look at him just bull his way through, powering, taking the hits, just doesn't stop. Keeps driving the legs. A very aggressive defense by the Colts. They flew up there. They made some broke up some blocks in the backfield, but they opened up what you call vertical lanes. If you don't have your defensive guys spread out in their lanes across the line, then you open up vertical lanes where the guy can kind of wiggle his way through, and that's exactly what Spikes was able to do on that play.
Saxon and Spikes in the backfield as Miami goes for 2. Marino to try to throw for it. Irving Fryer incomplete. Excellent coverage by Ray Buchanan on Irving Fryer, so the Dolphins come away with nothing. And still trail it 14-12 with 11:59 left. Here's trying to wake up this Joe Robbie Stadium crowd. 14-12, Colts lead it. Miami unsuccessful on the 2-point conversion attempt. still within a field goal will get them a win. Had the two-point conversion been made, they would have been tied had they gone scoreless throughout the remainder. This is Ronald Humphrey bringing it out close to the 30-yard line as Sean Hill makes the stop for Miami.
Okay, let's take a look at the touchdown here. You're going to say the play starts to the right. Saxon makes a block there. You see the vertical lanes open up between the defensive lineman and the linebacker coming up to make the block. Spike's able to find his way through there and just work his way into the end zone.
First career touchdown for Irving Spikes. That caps an 11-play, 68-yard drive. 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Colts have it back. Jim Harbaugh in for the injured Don Mikowski. Colts at the 29. Flock. Maybe one.
Well, the key here is to see how the Dolphin defense responds to what the Dolphin offense has just done. Now, does that momentum carry over to them? Are they able to get drawn up into that vortex? It seems like that's what's happening. Falk trying to make the run in the middle. A very fired up defensive front, stopping them for just like a yard and a half.
Harbaugh can't find anybody, runs it out. He's going to get the first down on 2nd and 8, so Harbaugh runs it for the first down. Chris Singleton chased him down. Second half yards so far, Miami with a big edge, 133-58 for the Colts.
Well, we said both Magic and Harbaugh were similar quarterbacks, both like to run. Mikowski seems to like to run and throw. Here we're saying Harbaugh really wanted to take it on himself. Run with the ball, pick up the yardage on his own when he can.
Yeah, they call Mikowski more of the gambler, Harbaugh more of the conservative type. 1st and 10 from the 41. Falk straight ahead. Got about 3 or 4 to the 45 before he's brought down by Chuck Klingbeil and Larry Webster. Klingbeil, you like this guy. He's kind of a throwback.
Well, he's a nose tackle. He's just a guy that stands in there, plays a run, takes control. You see there, separates from the blocker and goes after the guy. He's a guy that's going to stand there, get blocked by one guy, get blocked by two guys. He's going to have a running back come in and take a couple shots at him. And he's just going to stand there, and he's going to be a stump, a tree stump, and they're going to have to route him out.
Harbaugh to Falk out of the backfield. Falk's got another first down for Indianapolis. Singleton ran him out of bounds, but the Colts moving the ball effectively.
And the versatility of the Colts early on was what was getting them going and getting their offense moving. Here you see them in split backs. Just a quick little drop off. I mean, right from the gun, this was the plan. Drop it to Falk. You see that little acceleration, little kick step he's got, able to pick up the first down. But if they're going to keep the drive going, they're going to have to mix it up. The defensive front for the Dolphins is playing hard. They're going to have to mix in the short pass with the running game and then eventually drop off some long ones.
40 yards for Falk in receiving. He leads the NFL in yards from scrimmage. Bad exchange there. Falk fumbled the football. And he was able to recover it.
Well, when Mikowski takes over as a starter, Harbaugh doesn't get as many snaps. Here we just have a little bit of bad exchange. Actually, it looks like more of the responsibility falls on Marshall Falk on this one. The ball being handed off deep, so Marshall can pick and choose his holes and make the break. There, I think he may have tried to run, found the hole before he actually had a hold of the ball.
Now it's 2nd and 13. Harbaugh to flip to Falk. Miami not fooled at all. Harbaugh just wanted to let Falk do his thing out there on the right side, but even Marshall Falk couldn't escape Singleton and Michael Stewart.
Well, it's one thing to let the guy do his thing against one or two guys, but when he gets the ball, there's 3 defenders right there ready to make a play on him. Great awareness, great anticipation by the Dolphin defense.
You see the time left. Colts up by 14-12. This is the loudest we've heard Miami's crowd all afternoon. Harbaugh chased and knocked from behind by Marco Coleman.
you see coming around the outside, beats number 67, Will Wolford. Harbaugh just doesn't see him. All he sees is Brian Cox in his face, pulls up to avoid Cox and to make the throw downfield. But Coleman coming hard like a train on the backside, up over the top. Big hit on Jim Harbaugh.
5th sack of the year for Coleman. Stark sends it down O.J. McDuffie's way. Excellent punt, but into the end zone. And Miami will come back 1st and 10 from its 20. 47-yard punt by Stark. Announced Dan Marino surpassing Dan Fouts as #2 all-time passing yardage leader here in Miami, and the Joe Robbie Stadium crowd applauding it. But Dan Marino trying to get his team a win here. Down by 2 to the air, intercepted. This is Ray Buchanan. Touchdown, Indianapolis.
What a play. And look at the face on Dan Marino, the dejection. Just, he can't believe that he stepped in front of that ball.
Wow, right after we announced Marino as #2, at least here in Joe Robbie, an uncharacteristic pick. The first one was tipped of the game, but this one shouldn't have been thrown.
Now Mark Ingram, the receiver, coming back for the ball, but Buchanan, knowing the route, anticipating the comeback, just goes for it. Sometimes, you know, as we've seen many times, those can be dangerous. If you don't make the pick, the guy makes a reception, he's going to run for a while until your safety support comes and makes a play. Buchanan that time, perfect anticipation, made the big play.
His 2nd of the season. Biasucci's extra point is good. And Indianapolis has a 21-12 lead with 7:32 left. Don't see that often by Dan Marino. Well, the year is 2192. Planet Earth is dying and mankind must colonize a new Earth, only to find out we're not alone. It's the special 2-hour series premiere of Earth 2. Tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern Time and Pacific, 6 o'clock Central, right here on NBC. Ray Buchanan's 28-yard interception return for a touchdown has put Indianapolis up 21-12. Just his 6th career interception, but certainly the biggest.
And you know, you look at that, and obviously Dan Marino's very down on himself for throwing that ball. But in this game, there's winners and there's losers on every single play. That one wasn't so much that Dan Marino was the loser of that play. Ray Buchanan was the winner. He made a great break on the ball. And instead of just kind of halfway going in to make the play on the receiver, he said, you know what, I'm going to make the play on the ball. I'm going to take the chance, and it came out for him.
Biasucci's kick taken by McDuffie, who fumbles it at the 3, picks it back up. Runs into his own man at the 13 and just gets across the 15. And that's where the Dolphins will begin and try it again. You know, talked with Dan Marino yesterday, and the 2 interceptions he threw last week against New England, he said, you know, I just wish I had a string to pull those back. And he's the kind of guy, the perfectionist, who just dwells on it.
He told us, he goes, you know, I had that ball just as it's leaving my hand. I'm going, come back, come back. Because I knew as soon as it was leaving my fingers that it was the wrong throw. And you're right, he's a guy, and that's why they stay in the league that long. He's one of those guys that can have a great game except for 1 or 2 plays, will go home at night and will dwell on the things he did wrong. And that's what makes him a great, great player.
By the Colts, Marino gets it away to Irving Fryer. He's got a 1st down at the 36.
You talk about poise. You talk about Dan Marino. You know, he's not affected at all by that interception the last time. He just kind of sat there in that pocket, guys all around him, looked for his receiver and found him.
Change of pace for Miami. They hurry up. The dump to Saxon. Trying to juke Stephen Grant, but Grant doesn't go for it and brings Saxon down for a loss.
Well, Grant knows that he's being ISO'd at that point. It's him and Saxon by himself. He's on a running back. He's nervous, but he breaks down, keeps his eyes on the numbers, and doesn't let him find an opening. He knows if he gets beat, there's going to be a lot of razzing in the locker room later.
Some serious juking. Marino comes up, dumps it off. Saxon. Brought down by Coria. 6:11 and counting. Dolphins have all 3 of their timeouts left. They trail by 9. Zip by Marino, and Mark Ingram has his very first catch of the game. Listen to the crowd.
They must be cheering for Ingram.
And they'll hurry up again. Ball now at the 48 of the Colts. Down the sideline for Ingram again, and Ingram had it and dropped it incomplete. Ray Buchanan on the coverage.
Ray Buchanan is playing great defense. Made a big hit on Ingram before. Obviously the interception. But watch the pressure on Marino here. He is just engulfed by defensive linemen. As he releases the ball, he's got him coming in from high and low. Coriat. He's got Freddie Joe Nunn coming in. Here you see Ingram down the sideline, breaking for the ball.
Boy, Buchanan was really beat early in that pattern and was able to come back and make the defensive play. Buchanan with a big interception return for the touchdown. Coming up big there.
He is fired up. He is really playing hard going after that ball.
2nd down and 10. Marino to Irving Spikes. Spikes is dragged out of bounds by David Tate. Jason Belser has also been in the Indianapolis Colts defensive secondary. He did not play last week with a knee injury. Tate got the start today, but Belser has been there. He's the 8th round draft pick in '92 out of Oklahoma. 3rd down and 1.
Well, this is the time that Dan Marino takes control. He's a guy that can change the play in the huddle. He can change the play at the line. They have the faith in him to make the right decision. And as in a no-huddle situation here, trying to get the ball down quick, he's going to make a lot of decisions on his own out here.
Spikes has the 1st down and more. Down to the Colt 31. Buchanan makes another stop.
Yeah, but it's 15 yards downfield, so you don't really care about those that much.
And the change of pace seems to have breathed new life into the Miami offense. Operating without Byers and Parmalee, out with injuries. And the draw to Spikes. He gets to the 25. Runs into Belser. 4:27 and counting left. Miami needs 9 points to tie. 10 points, which could conceivably be a touchdown and a field goal, would win it. Again, a handoff to Spikes, and this time the Colts not fooled at all. Stephen Grant, Devon McDonald there to meet Spikes for the loss.
The Colts have been putting 3 guys up front, trying to put more people in coverage. Here, they kept the linebackers in, told them, sit tight a little bit. Make sure it's not a run before you drop back into coverage. The last couple plays, they've been dropping back. They've been leaving a lot of room for the running back to find a hole.
When we come back, Marino and the Dolphins will have a 3rd down and 8, trailing by 9. Short of a sellout here in Miami, close to 68,000 watching potential upset. The Colts with a 21-12 lead on the Dolphins. Key play here, 3rd and 8. Marino complete. O.J. McDuffie, touchdown Miami.
Just hitting a slanting. O.J. McDuffie. Defenders just banging into each other. O.J. coming clear for the touchdown. You know, you give Dan Marino and Don Shula enough time to stand on the sidelines and talk about things. They're gonna make some good decisions.
Miami trails it 21-18. An injured Colt is down. We'll be back with 3:52. Shula and the Miami Dolphins trail by 3. An extra point pending here for Stoyanovich. A quick trigger of Dan Marino, hooking up 28 yards with O.J. McDuffie.
What a huge play.
having some microphone problems with Bob's mic. We'll get that fixed in just a moment. Stoyanovich on to tack on an important extra point. He's got it. It's 21-19 Indianapolis. So the scoring drive for Miami, 10 plays, 83 yards, 3 minutes and 29 seconds. And coming up next on most of these NBC stations, Game 2 of our NFL doubleheader. Most of you will see Jim Kelly and the Bills look to avenge that season and opening loss to Boomer Esiason and the New York Jets. Buffalo in the Meadowlands to take on the Jets. Some of you will see a couple of teams trying to bounce back. New England and Cleveland. Miami trying to bounce back in this one. Dan Marino has just thrown his 19th touchdown pass of the season. He needs one to extend his NFL record of most seasons with 20 or more touchdown passes to 11. So he's got the milestone in the passing yardage department all time. He's number 2 now. And Miami is right back in it.
And I was saying before, Dan, it was important for the Dolphins to score that, make that play so quickly. Had they eaten up much more time, it would have made more difficult for them to have an opportunity to get the ball back. If they did get the ball back again for a second time, it would have been a situation where they had to go long all the time. Now they can kind of use some ball control.
And how big is that early miss by Pete Stoyanovich? When his ankle turned, it was a 32-yarder that he missed. Had that not happened, Miami would have the lead at this point, 22-21, but not the case. Stoyanovich, as he approached the ball, blew off the tee.
Actually, if you think about it, the game would probably be tied because they wouldn't, the Dolphins wouldn't have gone for the two-pointer. They would have gone for the, remember they went for the two-pointer that time and missed it. They would have gone for the kick because they would have been ahead.
I knew we shouldn't have hired you as an analyst. You're just too quick.
So we would have been going to overtime.
That's what that Notre Dame education does.
Yeah, you know, hey, plus a little free time, too. Doesn't hurt.
So Stoyanovich will give it another try as the winds have gusted up here a little bit. Humphrey back in the end zone as Stoyanovich booms it for a rare touchback. Maybe the wind had something to do with it. Maybe it didn't. Nonetheless, the Colts come out and begin from the 20. Jim Harbaugh taking over early for Don Majkowski, out with an injured thumb.
Well, the Dolphins not only need to stop him quick now because of the time, but if they can stop them now, they can get the ball back in good field position when they end up punting.
Chances are, I believe, we'll see Marshall Faulk a lot in this series. He helped put the clamps on the Jets last week with some big runs. And here he is to start this one out right side. Looking for some room, curls his way up to about the 23-24. Brian Cox is there to meet him. Indianapolis will work as much time off the clock. The Dolphins have all 3 of their timeouts left, as do the Colts.
Well, it seems like the Dolphins really anticipate them to use Faulk. Seems like all their people, including their defensive backs, are moved up pretty. Like all their people, including their defensive backs, are moved up pretty close to the line of scrimmage. They want them all there in support to stop these plays for as little gain as possible.
Scrimmage. Marco Coleman, who in the previous series for the Colts had a key sack on Harbaugh.
Watch him
nails Faulk.
You see him come through here. You don't actually see the hit. You just see the body change direction immediately with the power of that hit. Drove him backwards.
Going for a long route, incomplete, intended for Dawkins. Good coverage by Troy Vincent. 4th down. The Colts are 3 and out.
Well, Troy Vincent, they had to test him. The guy's he's been injured. You see him down the Troy Vincent, man-to-man. Dawkins down the sidelines running right with him. Vincent saying he's not 100%, but I'll tell you what, he looks fine there.
That's about as tight as you can get away with coverage-wise.
Without a doubt. Huge series for the Dolphins.
And now the Colts hope for another booming punt for the veteran Ron Stark. McDuffie from the 26. Breaks a couple of tackles across the 40. Excellent return by McDuffie. 50-yard punt by Stark, but McDuffie brings it back 17. The Dolphins have excellent field position with 2:06 left in the game.
Good break here, just breaking the tackles. The Colts just not wrapping up on them. And at a time like this, you've got to make the hit, and you've got to drag them down. Whatever you do, you hold on, you slow them down, you let somebody else make the hit. Guys just slipping off the tackle. Bad basics.
Tate finally brought McDuffie down, but he gets to the 42. Should be the last play before the 2-minute warning. Complete. Fryer. Close to midfield. Poyat and Harrod make the tackle. And we have reached the 2-minute warning. 21-19, Indianapolis leading it. And if you're a football fan anywhere, this is the kind of situation you love to see Dan Marino in. He's been picked off twice already today. The last one, pretty much his fault and really the biggest play of the game, but now with a chance to come back and win it.
But you talk about a professional who plays consistent football. Remember the first series of plays when the Dolphins started moving the ball. What were they doing? They were throwing the little short route to the back, crossing right dead center over the middle of the field, or even the wide receiver crossing right over the middle of the field. Now they've lost Parmalee, they've lost Byers, they've lost all these guys that were the mainstay of their offense in the beginning of this game. And what are they doing? They're running the same stuff. Completion right there showing the exact same thing.
Well, there is Vince Tobin, the former defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, now in his first season in that capacity with Indianapolis. And it's the responsibility of his defense to stop that man. Tall order.
Well, he told us yesterday that Miami is so difficult to stop because they have so many weapons, and that's that was with Parmalee, Byers, Ingram, Fryer, all these guys. Even with those injuries, he still has those weapons to deal with.
There is the Dolphins infirmary. Parmalee nearest to you, and Keith Byers in the civvies and the crutches. Coming up next, a reminder, the Bills and the Jets in the Meadowlands, followed also by New England and Cleveland. Those games coming up in the second half of our doubleheader here on NBC. Ball at midfield, 2nd down and 2 for the Dolphins. Field goal would win it for Miami. Plenty of time for Marino, and at the last second, after checking off the right side, is able to get Fryer for a 1st down.
The Dolphin offensive line doing a great job of picking up the stunts up front, giving Marino the chance to throw. Got a little antsy there at the end. I think he's like a little nervous. Saw the dump off guy, the relief guy, just dropped the ball off. Very close. Bring the chains out to take a look at this.
It appeared that Fryer had it with the spot.
Yeah, I think he's over by about a half a foot or a foot.
Yeah, he's got it clearly. We've mentioned the Miami injuries. Also want to make it clear that Indianapolis has been without Roosevelt Potts, their big blocking back, for some of the second half.
And Don Majkowski.
And Majkowski,
who was the spark for them last week against the Jets.
First and 10, ball at the 48 of Indianapolis. Complete. McDuffie. Close to another first down. Stephen Grant, Damon Watts make the stop.
You can't do it. They're so concerned with getting beat deep that they're leaving the underneath alone, and Dan Marino will eat you alive. He will just drive it down. He's got plenty of time with his ball control offense here just to drive it down and get at least in field goal position.
Second and less than a yard. Marino goes for a lot more. Complete. And how big has this game been for Irving Fryer? Less than a minute. Another first down. Stoyanovich on the sidelines, hoping for a chance to win it. 12 times in his career, he's kicked a field goal that won a game in either overtime or the fourth quarter. Complete. Mark Ingram. Clock stops with 31 seconds.
Great combination of routes. The outside receiver, Mike Williams, came across. Ingram broke to the outside. The coverage people saw Williams cross the inside, started to go with him, and left Ingram wide open going to the outside. There you see Pete Stoyanovich warming up on the sidelines.
2 for 3 this afternoon. We mentioned the early miss. His ankle buckled underneath him. And Miami will take the timeout. They've got 2 left.
From about here, we're talking about a 39, 40-yarder.
Check that they have 1 timeout left. That is their second timeout that they've taken. Pete Stoyanovich ranks second among the NFL's all-time field goal percentage leaders, behind only Nick Lowry. He's been hot after a cool start when he made 2 for 5 heading into this game. He had made 9 of his last 10. So he's made 11 of his last 13. Mentioned Irving Fryer's had a big game. How about O.J. McDuffie? Had the 28-yard touchdown reception, which pulled the Dolphins within the current score of 21-19, and he's had some key returns on punts and kickoffs, as well as a good game at the wideout position. Second down and 4. Spikes spins off a couple of Colt tacklers, close to another first down. Siragusa finally brought him down. The clock continuing to tick down under 20 seconds. Spikes limps off. He gets the first down. Ground it. 8 seconds left. And they'll waste no more time as Stoyanovich comes out.
The emotion here for both teams has got to be incredible. The Dolphins on a high. The Colts on the other side of the ball have to be sitting there going, we have played our hearts out against a great team. We're sitting here, have been leading the entire way. Right at the end, we're faced with this, a short chip shot.
Jeff Dellenbach is the snapper. The holder is Jim Arnold. He has set up at the 24, but the Colts take a timeout. Are they going to ice Pete?
That never does anything. They do that. They always call timeout on defense, think it's going to throw off the kicker. They don't pay attention anyway.
This will be a 34-yard attempt by Stoyanovich.
Now looking back on this game and who was the MVP for the game, you think about it, and just a short 10 minutes ago, we're sitting there looking, going, I don't think anybody on the Dolphins that they're really shined. You know, we were looking at the Colts, but now with this last drive, the last couple times the Dolphins have had the ball, you have to look at a guy like Dan Marino, who faced the adversity, the situation. He throws that interception, you know, feels personally responsible for that, and now has come back.
34-yard attempt for Stoyanovich. Marino on the sidelines. He's done his job. He'll wait for Pete. That much closer to career win. 3:33. 4 seconds remain. The employee owners of Avis salute today's MVP. We took a lot of swings in this game. It was Ray Buchanan early on, but Dan Marino is the winner of today's We Try Harder award, bouncing back from 2 interceptions.
Exactly.
The costly one to Buchanan. Comes back, hits McDuffie on a 28-yarder, and then sets up the Dolphins' final points on Pete Stoyanovich's 34-yarder. 13 times now in Pete Stoyanovich's career he has kicked a field goal that won a game in either overtime or the 4th quarter, or tied a game in the final period that sent it into overtime.
And how devastating for the Colts to have fought this hard, to have done everything they did today, and to come up 1 point short. You know, there's so many people that are going to go, well, you know what, we did a lot of good things. We played well against a good team. There's a lot of positives. But the bottom line is they needed a win. They needed to go out there and prove that they could win against the top teams in the league. And this team, being a team in their division, would have been the perfect team to knock off.
Stoyanovich will send it in the direction of Ronald Humphrey and Dewell Brewer.
He's flying so high now, I bet he puts it through the uprights.
Well, he kicked his last one into the end zone for a touchback. But he'll just top this one down the middle, and it's taken by number 84 of the Colts, the lateral, and we've got the Colts trying desperately to get something going, but time runs out on Indianapolis. Pete Stoyanovich, the field goal with 4 seconds left, 34 yards out, has given the Miami Dolphins an impressive win. They move to 7-2 and keep up their pace over the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. Meanwhile, the Indianapolis Colts fall to a disappointing 4-6.
Now, the key here is the injuries in the backfield for the Miami Dolphins. They obviously have won a big game here, allowing them to go on and to compete for that division lead. But when you lose Byers, we haven't heard anything about, a speculation on how long this injury will last. Bernie Parmalee, who has been the guy, as we said, for last 2 weeks, 273 yards rushing, has been the running attack for the Miami Dolphins. Without those guys without those guys in the game, how are they going to do?
Well, last year, Miami got off the 9-2 start, lost the final 5 games of the season to finish at 9-7 out of the playoffs.
And the thing was, a lot of that was because of injuries. Remember, last year, they were down to their 4th cornerback. They had just lacked depth, and they had a lot of injuries. Now we're starting to see that again, so hopefully these are short injuries.
Next week, the Dolphins host the Chicago Bears, and the Indianapolis Colts have an open date. They'll think about this one for a long, long time. Once again, the final score. Miami wins it 22-21. Up next, the second half of our NFL doubleheader. Most of you will see the Bills versus the Jets. Some of you will see the Patriots and the Browns. For Bob Golick, I'm
both forced out with knee injuries today. It was 21-12 Indianapolis when Dan Marino led the Dolphins in a 4th quarter comeback. O.J. McDuffie, 28 yards and a touchdown, made it 21-19 Colts. And then in the closing seconds, Pete Stoyanovich, a 34-yard field goal. Miami